Amen. All right, so if you have a question, I don't know if you might be, some of these questions maybe you don't want to say online. If you have a question, you can line up. If you're on the live stream, you can go ahead and start typing them in. This is what we call the Afterburn, okay, which is the comments and questions after the teaching. Okay, so anybody wants to start us off? Everybody's too embarrassed. Wait till we get to the Sex 101, then nobody's going to want to get up. Oh, Paul wants to say something. Okay, or are you just there for the camera to figure out? Oh, you got a question? Okay, Mr. Paul Rippey.
Shabbat Shalom, Rabbi.
Shabbat Shalom.
Thank you. The most important thing in any type of relationship, especially intimacy, is for the two people to get to know each other, who and what they are inside.
That is an absolute big part of it, yes.
Okay.
Why would you be intimate with somebody you don't know? I mean, know, like really know them, right? It doesn't make any sense to be intimate with someone you don't know. Okay? All right? Ms. Shira.
This is just a wonderful teaching. You're just so real, and you nailed so many things. And I just want to stand up here because recently I have some dear sisters who stood up here and really kind of bared their hearts to all of us regarding their own desire for a mate, but that they were also finding that Father was giving them time to grow into it, and were happy with where they were. And I think it's really helpful for us to kind of have a sense of each other, of where our hearts are regarding this. You know, do we want to be married? Do we not want to be married? So I'd just like to testify. Some of you know that about 3 years ago, it came to an end, a relationship that I had that was a very serious vetting relationship. But through that, it ended because I began to realize I don't think I'm called to be married. And being a senior citizen, at the time I was about 70, and I just like the way that Shaul talks about your calling, you know, and I wanted to run that by you because I really felt that Father began to build into me and has really brought it to fruition over the past 3 years, a serious calling to be his alone, like Brianna's song, my heart is yours alone. And it has special meaning for me because through 2 divorces, 3 broken engagements, and this failure of this vetting relationship that I had, among many other relationships, I experienced what it meant to be gifted, given that gift, and a lot through your Level Up courses, everything came together, that gift to be only for him, no desire for marriage, not because I'm bitter or afraid, but because I'm so full with his purpose was for me as a single person. And at my age, I begin to see life kind of like Shaul did. It's not that there are Roman soldiers trampling and raping us, but maybe I've got 15 good years left. It's not a whole lifetime. And so I'm thinking, this is important that I decide what I'm going to do with that time. And I feel so delighted, and I praise Father so much. He's filled me so much. I just have no other distractions and desires, and yet I delight in couples that he puts together.
Amen.
But I want to thank you for the covering which makes my position possible. Because if I didn't have that balance that you talked about by being covered, protected, and that, I might not be as confident, or, you know, I might be in for another failure. But this is just to say, I just love my brothers, I love my sisters. I want to be able to relate as brothers and sisters in a relaxed way with everyone, and yet that this, I feel, is a calling. And I would like to know if you can confirm that there's such a thing as a calling.
Well, look, I think that, Paul uses a phrase, and he wasn't talking about this. He says, whatever state you're in, you find it to be that you have peace in whatever state you're in, okay? And you may, all of you, but you, talking about in your situation, you may have been in a different state when you were younger and you thought different things and desired different things, and then that changes, and we all have things that change in our lives. And so the thing is, you have peace. And I watched you go through that journey because you didn't have peace for a little while, and you were really wanting the marriage experience again. But then later you were like, no, I'm good, and you had peace about it. And that's, really the difference and the key. And of course, a lot of it has to do with where you are in life and what you've already experienced and what you may need to still experience. So it's not just so much a calling, let's call it your journey. Your journey already had you go through marriages, they didn't work right, whatever, and you had your experiences, but those are experiences that you needed to have as part of who you became, but you don't need that anymore. That's what basically you've come to that realization. I don't have anything to gain at this point that I need, that I don't have with just focusing completely on him, which I might need to do more. I want to say this for all of you, okay? Try to be, and I hate to say things like purpose-driven, because I think that teaching has got its problems. Do things because you have a reason, a compelling reason. I use this a lot when I tell people when they ask me, should they go to college? I said, absolutely not, or absolutely, depending on your compelling reason. You shouldn't just go to go. Well, you shouldn't just get married to get married. There should be a compelling reason, okay? And one of the compelling reasons is that desire, okay? I know for me, I don't know maybe where you were when you were younger, but I know for me, I was a miserable single, and I was single till I was 35 years old. And I hated it because I felt incomplete. I needed that. There was a drive there that said I needed that, okay? And it wasn't just wanting sexual interaction. It was just I felt like I needed the intimacy of another person to live life with. I wasn't good by myself. That doesn't mean I might not be good by myself if I was 65 or 70 or whatever. As I got older, that may be the case. Right now, I'm very happy that I'm married and hope to stay that way all the way until the end, okay? But the thing is, life changes, you change, and it just has to do with, like, again, maybe the calling idea. I was definitely not called to be single, okay? That was then, though. I've been married now 25 years. If for some reason something happened to me and my wife, where somehow I found myself single, I don't know how I would feel at that point about wanting to be married again or anything, okay? So I may feel very comfortable, but you have to be in that condition, so to speak, to see how you feel about it, all right? So coming to the conclusion that, you know what? I just don't feel like that was my calling. I'm very comfortable and happy in the calling I'm in. That's really what Paul says when he said, look, be at peace with whatever situation you find yourself in, okay?
I love it, Rabbi. It's true. I think I've often thought, don't just give up something. Have something else that's going to fill you. And I just am so thankful. I just want to say in front of everybody, I'm so thankful for this leadership, this authority structure under Yahweh, the love that's here. I'm filled up so much by each of you that I feel I'm not superior because I want to be single and not distracted. Not at all. I just feel like there are so many neat ways that I could be a servant, and just the hugs, the love, the encouragement. I'm very filled up by what is here. Absolutely. Thank you all.
Look, let me add this, all right? We didn't cover this yet. I'm not sure how much we're going to get to cover it at some point. Each of us has various callings. You, by the way, you could be a sister. As a woman, you could be a daughter. As a woman, you could be a mother. As a woman, you could be a wife. So these are all different roles that you could have. And so just because wife was not your calling doesn't mean you might not find sister to be a great calling. Okay, because I know how you are with your friends and how you like to take them out and do things together. I mean, that may be more your calling of the roles that a woman could have. Okay? Also, a man has the role of a father or a brother, okay, or a husband, and you have these. And so one of the things I provide is I provide fathership for a lot of people that don't have fathers, and they get to also enjoy the role of daughter. Okay, and then they get that relationship stuff that they need. And there's an intimacy in there too. It's a different type of intimacy, okay, of knowing that you trust someone who's providing for you, and me as a father figure, trusting that I'm blessing you, I'm helping you, I'm guiding you, I'm keeping you safe, and I'm providing, right? And so men, even if you're not married, you still have this drive to provide and protect in some way. So you can do that in other ways, other than just doing it. You know, some of the guys are on the safety team because that's part of their drive is protecting. And they just feel like they're happiest when they're in a protecting role. So they do our safety team. And some of them are single, but they're still doing the male role, okay? And the ladies, some of you can work with the children even though you might not have any children, but you're doing sort of the motherly role, okay? There's just things you can do that fit into your role or any of the number of roles you could have as a woman or as a man. And so it doesn't have to be any particular one of them that you are just focused on, okay?
Praise Abba. Thank you.
You're welcome. So I'm glad you brought up the question. It gave me an opportunity to share that piece. All right, Chris.
Hi, Rabbi.
I bet you we're going to go to some verses.
Oh, well, it's just part of the, that would be the second thing. The first thing I want to say, I'm thankful for the teaching and for Paul's discussion on this. I mean, when I was a teenager, I'd have lack of self-control, and I counseled with you at that time about that stuff.
Yep.
And I think also, and I have to remind myself sometimes, I feel this pressure that if I married or anyone's married, they have a higher status. Like, okay, you have a nice job, you have a wife, you have children. Like, there's kind of it's part of that leveling up. But when I read Paul and when you are teaching this, it gives me a lot of shalom in that it's whatever it's going to be, but that's not I don't feel less than other people, I guess.
Good.
So
Excellent.
Yeah. And then I had a question about 7 verse 7. And I know you were talking about callings and roles you can have. Is that kind of but each one has his own gift from Elohim, one in this way and another in that? Or is there something else that he's talking
probably,
about?
exactly. You know what, when I skipped over that verse a little bit, I hadn't really gotten the clarity of what he wanted me to talk about there, and that's probably exactly it, okay? The idea that, you could be more designed to be a brother or to be mentoring like a father figure type of thing than actually being a husband. And that's just, we have various roles to play. Same thing with the woman. I talked about the women have these various roles that you can play, okay? Look, there's definitely some things that you will never get to experience unless you're married, but not all of them are good. There are some pretty awful things you don't get to experience unless you've been married. Then again, if you're not single for a long time and you're married and you're hardly single people get married very quickly, there's a lot of single nonsense that you don't get to experience. There's some good stuff also that you don't get to experience. Each side has its pluses and minuses. There's no ideal situation, okay? So to bring it that. Now let me see if you Tanner. Did I get that right?
Yes, Rabbi.
There you go.
So I have a question. As a young parent, I'm a single father. I'm 26 years old. I've been married before I was 18, way too young, just my ex-wife, she never believed in God. I did. Back then, I was a Sunday worshiping Christian, Baptist, whatever you want to call it. And since I've been back to Georgia, after I got out of that toxic relationship in Nashville, I've been so keen on intimacy, physical touch, affection. I'm kind of I'm addicted to it. And I love having the company of a female. But the thing is, though, I want a wife. I want someone I can raise these kids with, but every woman that I find, there's no shalom between us. There's no gratification for God. A lot of them don't worship God. They don't believe in God, or they just want to live a lifestyle. In this past, one of the girls I've seen, she was into paganism. She was into Wicca and all this other old ancient crap.
Right.
So,
there's a song to address this. Looking for love in all the wrong places. All right.
Exactly.
Okay? See, if you were looking for somebody in a place where people are focused vertically and in covenant, you might meet somebody that's actually focused on God. And so you've been looking in all the wrong places. That's really part of the problem. Now, maybe if you guys, I know you're visiting here today, if this becomes a place you come on a regular basis and you get established in here, Abba may just bring somebody to you that already believes in and follows and is in love with him for you to love as well.
Yes, sir. Then what's the biggest question I got, like, I know it feels wrong. You know what I mean? The affection feels genuine, but after it's wrong, right?
That is correct.
It's fornication of some kind, adultery, whatever have you.
Right.
But
well, let's talk more about that individually if you want to counsel sometime, and I will be doing a teaching that covers it more at some point. But I think your first thing that you want to do is get you congruently aligned correctly, which means that you make sure your relationship with him is correct. You find a structure for guidance and mentoring, which we could provide if that's something you desire. And then when we get you all aligned up and cleaned up and where you need to be, then you become something that he can bring somebody to that's a solid place. Because you've not been very solid. You've made a lot of, random different choices or whatever. They maybe not so random, but you made some poor choices, as you said during your, during the prayer time, etc. And now if we can get you to be, the main thing for all you singles is become a good catch. I mean, you want to attract a wife, then you got to become a good catch for a wife. You want a husband, then you become a good wife that a husband might, so you're a good catch for that husband, right? Become that desirable other side of the equation. Okay, and I'm not just talking about your looks, although that's part of it, right? It's the initial attraction. But he's talking about that inside part and also walking together in their belief, so you're two walking together. And so he's been with these women that were not walking in agreement with where he was spiritually, but yet he still had his desire, so he found himself attracted. And so you were looking for love in all the wrong places, right? And so if you want to stay here and come here on a regular basis, we can help guide you, and hopefully this becomes a right place where you can meet the right person at the right time.
Wonderful. Thank you, Rabbi. Shalom.
You're welcome. I'm glad you're here. Good. All right, Isaiah.
Thank you. Thanks for the teaching, by the way. I don't think I've ever heard anybody boldly lay out 1 Corinthians 7. So I wrote down my question, though, so don't go.
Well, good.
Because you know me.
I've never boldly let out 1 Corinthians 7 either, so it was my first time doing it, so,
Yeah. It was very clear and I'm thankful. So, speaking about the world condition at the time and how that, Paul was setting forth his opinion that, we don't really have time to waste thinking about these things. I'm reminded of Matthew, 24, and Yeshua was saying something very similar. He said, "Woe to those who are with child in those days, and to the women who are nursing." And I think, correct me if I'm wrong, that was speaking about the destruction of Jerusalem in 70 AD. That's what Yeshua was talking about. Because it happened very
well. It certainly was easily looked at as that, but not ultimately as that. But yes, the point is, clearly, if you have to flee, which he talks about, fleeing to the mountains and that kind of thing, fleeing while pregnant or fleeing while nursing is not going to be a very fun thing. And you can get some details of that because my wife ended up here because her family fled from Yugoslavia while her mother was pregnant with her, and climbed over mountains like you see in Sound of Music. She was climbing over the Alps. They literally escaped and climbed over. Her mother climbed over mountains while pregnant with my wife. And it was not the desirable way to do it. But sometimes it has to happen. But he's saying, it's going to be a woe to those who have to do that.
Yeah. So that was part of my question. And then, I'm very similar to you in the way that being single is very miserable, because I very much have that personality where I want someone to intimately share life with as a partner. And do you think so? In 1 Corinthians 9, I'm reminded of a verse. I think it's verse 4, 5, 6, somewhere right in there. Do you think Paul wanted a wife still, or it looked like almost like he was like jealous of James and Peter.
Well, I mean, he puts other things in there, like, do we have a right to eat and drink? Do we have the right to take along a sister or a wife? Do we have, in other words, he's like, what do you think we're so different than everybody else? Yeah, we have an authority position, but we get to, we're human beings. We get to do all these other things. And so he might have been, look, he makes a strong case in chapter 7 that he wishes people were like him. That doesn't mean he's so happy about it himself, but I don't know, okay? The drive for intimacy is a strong one, okay?
That's it.
All right, good. All right,
Thank you.
Thank you, Isaiah. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Rabbi. I appreciate this
All right,
teaching. Well, you're talking about Paul talking at the end. He was saying that the end was nigh. He thought the end was nigh. It brought to me to this generation that the religion of this climate change has so many people of the upcoming generation, they don't want to marry and they definitely don't want to have kids. You see that a lot. And my question is, and I agree, I know the answer to it, but that's one of the tricks of Hasatan, to trick this generation like has every other generation to not want to do his plan, to have a family and children. And it's just like they're pushing everything that it's to the end of the world. There's no use to have a family because they're afraid.
Right. All right, so, and by the way, for all of you out there who have children, especially younger children, but even teenagers, be really aware of how much you talk about end times. And I mean, I've already told you I don't think that we're necessarily there, okay? Things are going not in a great direction, and they could get really worse. But if you're buying into all of the hype people out there, the fear-mongering people out there, and that's all you talk about in your house, you're going to have children that are going to be like, what's the point of getting married or looking for a good job or anything? The world's ending. And they're going to buy into that tone that's going through your house, okay? The tone in my house is do everything you can like you have forever, like you have all the time until you die. Like plan your life because you're going to live it all the way out to a ripe old age. And Yeshua is not going to come yet. However, he might come next month, which he really couldn't, but like he may come sooner. So be ready for it. In other words, you need to be getting yourself vertically proper. But as far as like careers, family, and all the other things, do these things as if you have lots of time. However, don't think you have lots of time to get your vertical alignment right. That you need, because you know what? You could get hit by a truck next week. You don't know how much time you have. And so make sure your relationship vertically is a proper, respectful, obedient, covenanted life while you're also planning for children, grandchildren, and whatever. Okay, so, and as far as being single, look, I'm not knocking. Some people are very happy being single, that's fine. I knew people that were pretty happy being single, so most of the people I thought that claimed to be happy single were out there behaving very inappropriately. Because they were getting the intimacy just without the ring. Okay? As Elder would say, all these women giving away their cookies for free. All right? That's what he said. I'm just quoting him. All right? And by the way, thank you all and pray for me because of this kind of a conversation. I am like the king of double entendre, and I'm pulling a muscle behaving. So, because you guys have given me about 15 setup lines that I didn't say anything. Because some people would think it would be inappropriate. Others would laugh their, you know what's off. But anyway. Listen, look, like Isaiah said, he appreciated that I was just straightforward and I wasn't beating around the bush. Okay, that was my one line. Okay, good. All right, so, all right. I couldn't resist. I had to give you one. Because Elder's sitting back there like it's okay. I've resisted about 15 of them, just so you know. Okay. What are you laughing at? I just said something that's straightforward, and I wasn't avoiding being straightforward. What did you think I was saying? Shame on you. The funny part is, I'm not red at all, and half of you are. 'Cause I didn't get embarrassed for that. I almost pulled a muscle, though, but I didn't get embarrassed. Okay. Now, live stream.
Okay, Rick Johnson, Torah promotes family and increasing in numbers. Was Paul letting this concept of the time of Yeshua's return to override the Torah in relations to staying single, etc.? Love you, Rabbi. Todah.
No, Paul was not letting, his concept override the Torah, okay? I mean, even Yeshua said, look, when things really go bad, if you're nursing and all this other stuff, it's going to be trouble. It's going to be bad, okay? He didn't say don't do it. He just said it's going to be challenging. I would definitely say bringing a child into a world that's in absolute clear turmoil might be something you might not necessarily want to do. I don't mean like the world we live in here in the States where things are just whatever and some people think it's worse or some people don't think it's as bad. But I mean like if you're literally in a battle zone where people are getting raped, pillaged, killed, kidnapped, and whatever, and children taken and offered to sacrifice, die. This is a different world that you may not want to bring a child into. That's what Paul's talking about. He's also expecting Yeshua's returning any minute, so what's the point? And so he bought into the same thing that everybody's bought into since then. It's just showing that he's a flawed human being like everybody else. It doesn't make his writings less valuable. I'm just saying he's a human being, all right? And he's subject to emotion, and that's where he was coming from. He was coming from an emotion of, I think the world is ending, so then you shouldn't be. This is Paul showing his blue side, okay? All right? The world's ending, so, why? Let's not do all of these things, okay? Red side saying, well, here's what it is. Let's keep doing what we're doing, because what if it doesn't happen? Okay? And then we survive through it, and then we get to move forward. All right, next question.
Janet Hoffman, Rabbi, whenever there is an actual separation because of work, how can one achieve a proper level of intimacy? Does quality time make up for intimacy till physical intimacy can be attained?
All right, look. You're missing the point, okay? This is what I was avoiding. It's not about a set rule of thumb. It's about agreement, okay? So if there's a separation because of work, you find ways to do what you can over the phone or whatever you do in terms of sharing your intimate desires with your partner, saying, look, I love you, I can't wait to see you, I'm here for you, whatever it is. And then the physical stuff can't happen until you're actually together, but you do this by agreement. Because if having a job, okay, and I know in your case your husband lives where, you guys are not together when he's working most of the time, but you did that by agreement, okay? We talked about it, we counseled about it. Other people, though, may not like that their spouse is on the road all the time and they never get to see each other, and that may not be by agreement, and that's going to strain the marriage. Okay, so it really has to do with the level of agreement. Okay, so when you and Olivier talked to me about him being in Houston and you being here, you guys agreed that that could work, at least to try for a while and see how it would go. So again, I wouldn't set a, how do you fix this intimacy problem? It's not really a problem if you agreed. Just make sure you're conveying as best you can through love language that you can, like words if you can, or whatever you can do for the person that works other than the physical touch stuff. Because you can't do that till you see each other. But the main thing is if you're okay with it, then you're okay with it. As long as you're both okay with it. Does that make sense for everybody here? Okay? So, because I know people that actually do really well when the spouse is away for a period of time and then only is home for a little while. It's almost like a honeymoon every time they come back. Okay, good. Maybe that could work for you. I know some military people had that where the husband was deployed all the time, and whenever he came back, the wife it was almost like a honeymoon every time. Others, it destroyed their marriage, the not being together. So it really has to do with you. There's no set rule to this. It's about agreement, okay? Look, like I said, some of you may need, I'll talk to you individually, not just as a couple, you may need physical intimacy daily or maybe 5 days a week or whatever. Others may feel like, hey, look, once a week, I'm very good, maybe even less. If you're in agreement, whichever way you go, that's fine. Maybe you go to less, but you're in agreement. Maybe you go to more for the one who wanted less, and you're in agreement. If you're not in agreement, somebody's going to be frustrated or both. Okay? So it really has to do with agreement, okay? So let's say I'm the husband, okay? I'm not talking about me and my wife. But let's say I'm the husband, and let's say I want intimacy almost every day. But my wife says to me, look, I'm just going through some stuff. I'm really tired. Can we just skip it today? I can say, sure. Show compassion and all that other stuff. Now, if I'm hearing that every day for a month, I may have a problem, okay? Because now I'm wondering, is it just an excuse or is there a legitimate reason? Because there should be a reason, okay? And so that's, again, the relationship that you would have. She knows I want it, if I'm using the example of this hypothetical, right? If she knows I want it all the time, I also know she doesn't necessarily. That means that sometimes I'm going to win out, sometimes I'm going to lose out, sometimes she's going to win out as to each one getting their preference, but it's by agreement, okay? It has to be by agreement. All right, next.
Rabbi, I got quite a few here. I think they'll probably have to go with counseling or specifics, but I can shotgun them to you and you can. So Catherine says, what happens when you have had breast cancer and ovarian hormonal therapy that will put you at more risk? I think. And then somebody else was asked, what if your spouse will not be in agreement with you? What do you do when you've expressed concern about pain? Some others are.
All right, hold on. I get where this is going.
Yeah.
And again, look, all of you should either be very upset or praising Yah that I talk about things nobody will say, okay? All right. Wait, I didn't say it yet. Wait till I say it first. All right. You're missing the point. I said this, but you missed it. Intimacy doesn't necessarily mean intercourse, okay? So if you have ovarian or breast, whatever it was that you said which makes it problematic and unadvisable or ill-advised to go ahead and do intercourse, there are other things you can do. And trust me, he won't mind, okay? And so I'm just saying, you do intimacy on whatever level you can, and you do it by agreement. So let's say my wife ended up with this situation like you're saying, where either it's painful or it's ill-advised. I would certainly have no interest in causing that problem, but I would ask her to consider doing some other things that would still work for me and not cause that problem. Does that make sense for people? Again, other people are not going to talk about this from the microphone, okay? But be open about, hey, would you consider if you did this, that would work for me, if you could do this, and then you have this agreement that you can come to, knowing that it's not going to work for her because of whatever the health situation is or the pain situation, whatever it is, okay? Because otherwise you're being completely disrespectful of the fact that there's a reason, an actual reason not to do that particular type of intimacy, okay? But there's a whole wide range of other things you can do, okay? That's intimacy. If my wife would just give me a back rub or just like, that's sex, but it's intimacy for me, okay? I mean, there's lots of stuff that you can have that's in a scale that's before just full-out intercourse. So you can't do that? Fine, do other things. Okay, I told you this was going to cover the subject, and I'm going to talk straight. Okay, next. So hopefully I covered that whole wide range of questions.
Brother Weaver says, how is porneia not applied to Ruth and Boaz, where she sat at his feet in the threshing floor?
Okay, so not a simple way to answer that. Okay, they did not do, anything except that she sat at his feet, okay? So that's the first simplicity. It was meant, though, to be seen a certain way. So that was there to portray that there was an intimacy level there. So was that appropriate or not? There were games being played. Okay, there was some gamesmanship going on there, all right? But that being said, they didn't do anything of a sexual nature, of that level of intimacy. She slept and they saw her laying at his feet, okay? Now, that doesn't mean, guys and ladies, that you can it's okay to just lay at each other's feet even if you're not, appropriately situated and married. But yeah, the story is telling you that there was something going on. It was meant to be that they would see this when they woke up and people would see, and it was a whole little game going on. But it doesn't fit into porneia, because porneia is not something where I can go to Leviticus or someplace and say, and you cannot lay at the feet of somebody that you didn't have sex with, okay? Okay, Boaz wasn't married. She wasn't married. Nothing about that was a problem. Also, you need my official Sex 101 class. We're going to talk about who can have sex with who and why and when and everything else, which is going to get everybody in all kinds of trouble. All right? But what Scripture says, okay? But they were not doing that. So this is not a problem. This is not porneia when you're dealing with Ruth and Boaz, okay? It was more of a social, it looked like some things might have been going on. Which we should avoid the appearance, okay? Which is why I tell people all the time, if you're single, I'm sure, let me rephrase it. If you're married, you can't be looking like you're intimate with a single person who's not your spouse, because you are presenting something that would be considered the appearance maybe of something, okay? So you got to be careful of that. All right, next.
Line upon line is having more than one wife, porneia.
Okay, so the answer is absolutely not. And I was going to get into this earlier, and then I didn't cover it. It wasn't the one I was thinking of, but I don't even remember what it was when I said I'm not going to go there, so I don't know what that one was. But anyway, look. Actually, I do now. Okay, so, and it had to do with this more than one wife thing. Look, Scripture does not anywhere command you to have more than one wife. It also does not anywhere forbid it, okay? So there's no porneia there, okay? You are absolutely allowed to have sex with a wife. If you have 3 of them, you can have sex with all 3 of them. Wives, you're allowed to have sex with, absolutely, no doubt, okay? And so that's clear from Scripture. No porneia there, all right? No porneia there. By the way, I guess where I was going to go was when it talks about depriving or being reluctant, ladies, I'm not trying to stir a problem. Guys, I'm not stirring a problem. But you know what? In general, ladies don't want it all that often. Guys want it all the time. Well, guess what? If there's more than one wife, it fills that gap a little better. Not recommending it. You also have to deal with all the things of the drama and trauma of having 2 relationships instead of just one. Okay? But I'm just saying that was something that was in there. There were reasons in that society where a man may have more than one wife. Because first of all, you had only so many men, because they were being killed, okay? And then there was all these women who were then at danger of being raped and taken and whatever. So you often would have the need for protection to have one man have more than one wife. But they were treated as wife. They were not, and by the way, you never see this as a man seeking an extra wife. The wives are recommending other wives. You see this with Sarah, you see this with, Rachel and Leah. The men are not going around saying, hey, is it okay if we bring her into the mix? I don't have one verse that shows that, okay? So let's be careful. It seems to me, all the hints anyway from Scripture is that it's a wife-driven thing, not a husband-driven thing. The wife says, hey, I'd like you to take her in. That's what I see in Scripture. But no, this is not porneia, okay? However many wives you have, intimacy with a wife is absolutely allowed in Scripture. Encouraged in Scripture, okay? Next. But again, in this country, you can't have more than one wife. Those rules still apply. The only time we disregard gotta be careful with this. I don't want you disregarding the rules of the land. But when the rules of the land conflict with the Torah instruction, commandment, the commandment has to come first. There is no multiple wife commandment. Okay? There are some commandments that if you have, this is how you treat them. There's no commandment to have them. So if you're living in a country that says no, it's no. You understand? Because it doesn't break Torah to not do it. So we should never be talking about this in a country where it's not legal. It's a dumb point, okay? Oh, but, not but, okay? Don't, show me the Torah command to have more than one. There's 0, okay? It allows for it. There's no commandment against it. Okay, there's a lot of things that Torah allows that you may or may not do because it may not be something you're interested in doing. But you're allowed to do it, okay? A lot of them are sort of benign or whatever it is, but I'm just saying you don't have to do everything that's allowable. You have to do everything he commands you to do. And there's no commandment for this. All right, I just gotta be strong with that because this has just been 25 years of my doing this, it's been an on and off huge issue on a regular basis where people make this issue. And it's always you inappropriately lack of self-control men. I'm trying to think of what the verses were saying, how I can use the right words. You desire so much, instead of just finding a wife and doing what you need to with a wife, you feel like you need to go have more wives, so you're the one who wants. And then, oh, well, you know, my wife's 50 now, I want to go get a 25. Okay? Because I almost never see a guy wanting a wife his age. They always want one, a newer, younger model. All right? By the way, all you men, the scripture does command that whatever you do, wife number one never loses position number one. Her status never gets diminished. So if you're going to have a second one, that second one never gets the position that wife number one gets. She's still wife number one. That is a Torah command, okay? All right. Anything else? Because now the children are coming in, and I think we're right at 5:30. It's perfect. Are we good? I guess it'll have to be, right?
Yeah, we've got a whole bunch more, Rabbi. But
Okay, for all of you online and here, we'll be doing intimacy group therapy on Thursday. I'm kidding. All right, we'll close it with that then. That's fine.